our nation's capital. Kent Strang is the managing director for Americans for Prosperity. He oversees AFP's federal strategies, and boy, he's as plugged into the big, beautiful bill as anybody. Kent, great having you on the Mike Gallagher show. Good to see you. The House of Representatives, as we know, passed H.R. 1, okay? That's the boring technical term for the one big, beautiful bill. Now our focus is on permanence. What does this all mean? Let's talk about, do you mind getting in the weeds a little bit? I love Americans for Prosperity because not only are you guys the best grassroots organization in America when it comes to political matters and policy, but you can also help us understand in layman's terms what's at stake. All right, so Trump's rescission package has been passed. Let's talk about what that means for the American taxpayer. Can you walk us through this a little bit?
Sure. The House just passed a $9.4 billion rescissions package. This came from the recommendation of Elon Musk and the Doge team. And now that it's passed the House, it's going to move over to the Senate. And they have a 45-day window since President Trump and the White House gives that to the Congress for them to pass that. So we anticipate the Senate working on the one big, beautiful bill in the immediate and ensuring that when they get into July, they cut that $9.4 billion in rescissions packages. But what we're hoping is that this is the first of many cuts. Look, we're not going to solve all our problems in one big, beautiful bill, nor are we going to solve our spending problems through one rescissions package. We need Congress to continue to do this over and over and over and finally change the culture in Washington to cut spending.
You know, I get frustrated at these sort of civil wars that brew among Americans over things like fiscal conservatism, and it's so important. It's crucial. People have deep concerns fiscally with this bill, and you kind of alluded to it a moment ago. But I want to have you expand on this, Kent, because the truth is, Rome isn't going to get built in a day. This is going to take a while, right? And yet, this is absolutely the right direction that we're headed into. But can you address those concerns of people who say, look, we just can't keep being the money printing press. We can't continue to spend like fiends. What do you say to people who have those fiscal concerns?
I agree with those folks. Look, I'm a fiscal hawk myself. I know that spending is out of control. You know that spending is out of control. I think right, left, or center, every American knows that there's waste, fraud, and abuse in our government. But as we said, look, what we can't do is we can't look at this bill as this is the only solution for us. Because let's think about what's on the line here with the one big, beautiful bill. If it fails to pass the Senate and get to President Trump's desk, failure to extend the Trump tax cuts will result in a $4.5 trillion tax hike. Now, that's a lot of money, but what does that mean for the average American family? The average American family will see about a $1,500 tax hike year after year if we fail to extend President Trump's tax cuts. We absolutely can't let that happen. That's just one of the reasons to pass and extend the one big, beautiful bill.
I saw a statistic about Americans for Prosperity yesterday that reaffirms my constant support for you guys. I mean, I'm bragging on AFP every chance I get, and I saw, can you confirm or deny, is it true that last week alone, AFP held 135 meetings on Capitol Hill, highlighting not only the need to extend the Trump tax cuts, but to make them permanent? Kent, that's a lot of meetings.
That's a lot of meetings. It was 140 meetings. And not only was it 140 meetings with offices, 50 of those were with U.S. House members themselves, and 20 of those were with U.S. senators. And making the Trump tax cuts, not only extending them, but making permanent, will be so incredible for the American people and for small businesses. Now that it's gone over to the Senate Finance Committee, one thing that we saw yesterday when they released language is that they're talking about permanency in capital investments and things like equipment. And we've talked to small business owners all across the country, and this is the thing that they come back to over and over again is the expensing of their equipment. This allows them to grow. This allows them to expand. This is the sort of thing that allows them to hire more employees, give bonuses. This is a really incredible provision that the Senate has put in that's slightly different than what the House version was of H.R. 1.
We're visiting with Kent Strang. He's managing director for Americans for Prosperity. You know, I understand the drama about political figures, and I certainly understand people love Trump, people can't stand him. We had the No Kings protests over the weekend. But, you know, the proof seems to be in the pudding. Yesterday, Harvard-Harris released their poll asking Americans to describe the state of today's economy. How do they feel the economy is performing now? This is to me, pretty riveting, and it speaks to your point about going in the right direction and taking this step by step. For the first time, Kent, as I'm sure you've heard, in 4 years, according to the Harvard-Harris poll, a majority of Americans believe that today's U.S. economy is strong. 52% to 48%. Again, that's the Harvard-Harris poll. Kent, this is working. I mean, despite all the gloom and doom about the tariffs and the sky is falling, you know, melodrama, again, for the first time in 4 years, and you cannot, you know, overstate this, a majority of Americans believe that our economy is working.
Well, the proof is in the pudding, and I feel like America is on a roll. You see that the stock market is improving, continue to go up on the S&P. Consumer price indexes look good. Inflation is cooling. Gas prices are down. I mean, look, say what you will, but our economy is booming. And then what's the next step that we can take? That next step that we can take is to provide certainty for the American families and American businesses. Extending the Trump tax cuts will help do that. That way we're not looking at a massive tax hike when we get into next year. But yeah, I mean, it's undeniable that America's on the right track. The economy's good, and let's keep going.
Amen. And there's a lot that our audience can do, and I want to make sure that, you know, we mobilize. I've been bragging on this audience today. I mean, in the last month, our audience donated over $200,000 to send the children of prisoners to summer camps, the prison fellowship, you know, ministry that, you know, the late Chuck Colson started, and the Angel Tree camps. And this audience in 4 weeks, less than 4 weeks, donated like, I think it's $220,000 to send these kids to these Christian summer camps, which is so our audience can move mountains. How can they be as effective with policy, with the big, beautiful bill? What can our folks do to assist your terrific organization, Americans for Prosperity?
Mike, you have an incredible audience, and there's something that we can do to take one small step for freedom. This weekend, Americans for Prosperity is having its National Day of Action. And what that means is our grassroots teams all across the nation, all 50 states and 35 permanent state chapters are going to go out and they're going to advocate for the passage of the One Big Beautiful Bill. We're going to do that by knocking on doors in key Senate states and even key House races, because it's going to go back to the House. And in addition to that, we're going to make phone calls that patch individuals through to their member of Congress and senator's office, encouraging them to pass this incredibly pro-growth legislation. And so we will be out on the doors, on the phones, making real change. Nice. And all it takes is taking one small step off the sidelines and getting into the game. And Americans for Prosperity is an incredible place for you to start that journey.
Well, and I'll give everybody the landing page to go to start that journey. ProtectProsperity.com. Take action, let your voice be heard, and help this splendid organization do their job. Go to ProtectProsperity.com. ProtectProsperity.com. Kent Strang, keep fighting the good fight. Thanks for joining us, sir.
Thank you, Mike. Appreciate you.